Liquor Talk. New episode starts right now. Welcome everybody to another edition of the Liquor Talk Podcast. I'm your man Victor, and we are in the midst of the final rounds of season 5 of Liquor Talk. Also, I'm coming to you from Studio Max right here in beautiful Orlando. And today's guest is coming to you from California. I think this is probably one of the first West Coast guests we've had in a long time.
Okay.
She brings the weed lifestyle to everywhere she goes. She's the host of the MariJayne Maven Podcast. It's Miss MariJayne Maven. How you doing today?
Thank you. I'll just throw up that West Coast, you know.
Yeah.
No, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations in your 5th season. That's big stuff.
Yes. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? We keep this thing going. You find something you like and you just keep pushing,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
and I appreciate you for joining me. I know there's a big time difference between Florida and California. So
Yeah, I mean, for you, thank you because you're ahead of time. I'm still it's early in the afternoon here. Um, and my boys know the schedule. I'm podcasting. Y'all figure out what dinner is. Um, you know, I made sure hubby had some, like, tater tots to time over until I'm done. But other than that
damn.
other than that, uh, you know, I may make up for it other ways later, but right now, it's just yeah. So he has his tater tots and his beer. He's a teacher, and he just got off work, and he's my producer and ran right in here to help. So, um
Yes. Shout out to hubby for
yeah,
assisting and help you get set up. So let's
yeah.
get into it. Why don't you tell people about your podcast, the Mary Jane Maven Podcast?
Thank you so much. So, the Mary Jane Maven podcast is part of my brand, part of the creation when I decided to leave corporate America about 6 years ago now. Um, I chose to start living in my passion and purpose and to step out of living in fear, which I had been doing for so many years. And I used the guise of, well, I'm an adult. I've been to college. What are you supposed to do after that? You go to college, you get married, you get a good job, you start having kids, you do what you're supposed to do. That's kinda antiquated. Not saying that that is not a good, a good, um, good steps to take for someone to live a successful life because everybody's definition is different. However, we do have a purpose within this universe. We all have a predetermined purpose, and I had to stop fighting against my purpose and wanting to be in control and really, like I said, step into that power of being doing my passion and my purpose. And so when I did that, all hail and I love so much credit to The Alchemist. I read that book and it was like somebody was writing the book for me over my shoulder. Like I felt like who is putting
Mhm.
these words on this page? But it was just so validating and it felt easy for me then to have a have a playlist of where, where I wanted to go. Um, and I didn't feel so uncertain. But like I said, at that point, I let go of the control that I was so used to living in. But when I decided to leave corporate America, I knew that I wanted to get into weed. I have a story to tell. Well, I don't like to say that. Multiple sclerosis lives with me. I was diagnosed in 2006 and after trusting, my practitioner and saying, "Well, you're the professional. You went to medical school to be able to tell me what to do." I chose to take control of the quality of life that I saw for myself. I wasn't going to allow, MS to hinder me in any way. So I've used cannabis for, gosh, I think the last time I did use any of the medication was maybe 2009. So consistently since that time, I've used cannabis. In that time, I made it my purpose, and I did my due diligence to find out how to use the plant, not only to get lit like I did in college, um, but to actually, like I said, provide the quality of life that I saw fit for myself. And because of that connection with cannabis, I knew that I was supposed to do something inspirational. I just didn't know what. So I started off by just getting into the industry, doing affiliate work, networking, finding my way, helping to kinda mold I'm in Sacramento, California, so helping to kinda mold our community, and my husband said one day, "You always used to say that you wanted to do a radio show," and I was like, "Nobody does the radio." I mean, I did used to have, like, my sign out when I was gonna say at the end of my show, And I had only told him that. Only told, never shared that with anyone, but he said, "Maybe you should try this podcast thing." And I said, "Oh, well, you know, and the money that put into it, I threw up so many, obstacles for myself." And he was like, "You thought you knew, you're gonna learn today." So I was a guest on a podcast. He accompanied me to the podcast. He talked to the studio and the owner of the studio. And next thing I know, the next week, we're meeting with them to sign a contract and to get into the investment and the production of what my podcast would be. So within a week's time, he was like, "I put the money up there. I will worry about making the investment. You just be the talent." And
Mm,
that started in October of 2019. Yeah, 2019. So right before COVID.
mm,
Um, and my podcast is about living a lifestyle of wellness through cannabis. Um, and it's just me as well. I'm a pop culture nut, so I may talk about that. You know, I use my platform to do what I do every day to the people that I love and the people that meet me. I'm a talker. I'm very passionate about what I do and what I'm interested in. And so that just comes across within my podcast. But I do find it very important that in order for cannabis to become normalized like it should be and allow for certain communities, such as the Black community, to move forward, to maybe start building some generational wealth, to become entrepreneurs, there has to be education. And in order for the education to happen, that will lead to the eradication of all of the falsehoods and the reefer
yes,
madness kind of ideas. And once that's done, then people will be able to choose, grown people will be able to choose how to elevate their life the way that they see fit versus being told. So the Mary Jane Maven and my mission is to educate, eradicate, elevate all around cannabis.
that's real. I'm glad you to do that, and I'm happy you were able to fight through that. Because I've definitely heard stories of how people were diagnosed with cancer, but then they took on the lifestyle of just using cannabis,
Yeah.
and then months later, the cancer's in remission.
Yes.
And I've heard those kind of stories all the time. And it's just now we're in 2023. Now it's starting to come out more
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
people are more
The
using.
truth.
But
Hmm.
then you learn that big pharma was they knew about this, so that's why
The
they
whole
were
time.
paying
The whole time.
all of the governors and all the politicians to
Mhm.
I don't want to
So
sound like a conspiracy
yeah.
theorist here, but
Fun fact: the government has been sending people in Mississippi and another state an ounce of weed every single month since the early '80s. That was around the time that AIDS started to scare everybody.
mhm,
And so they chose, just like our government always does, and very much in our history, they choose a certain group of people to kind of put into like, a research, but they did it under the falsehood of, "Oh no, we're really trying to figure this illness out." And
mhm,
we understand that it can help you guys in the later stages when you don't have an appetite and things like that. But really they were doing it for their own purpose, for their own benefit. But the last person I think that was part of that group, passed maybe about 10 years ago, maybe 15, but from the early '80s until that time, the government was sending these people a free ounce of weed, and it probably was very good damn weed. Every time I think about it, I think about Half Baked and how, they're working. If you guys have never seen Half Baked, please do.
mhm,
Um, but Dave Chappelle was working in a hospital, and within the hospital, there was a research floor, and on that research floor, they were doing research with the best weed. So, it's just funny how this whole time, they've used it to disenfranchise and break up
mhm,
Black families, and Black families predominantly, but any person of color. They used it, I
exactly,
mean, they fabricated the narrative, in the '50s, and they did it to they called it marijuana because it sounded Latin or Mexican. And so they were focused in them, and then they just started creating all of the criminal aspects to well, what they were trying to do is eradicate, the Black family, and they started with the Black man. So if you guys do any kind of correlation, direct correlation
mhm,
from when these drug laws, were determined and when they were set into action to the last 5, 10, 15 years, a large amount of it are drug offenses, and it has to do with weed, a good portion
Yes.
of it.
hmm Shout out to one viewer saying that they work in healthcare and cannabis is now given to cancer patients.
Mhm,
I'm like, I wish the cannabis was given out like 10 or 12 years ago when my grandfather was sick and I had to bury him as a baby. It's
mhm,
like, god damn, like it's like I wish that instead that they would have been giving out this marijuana instead of keeping it a secret. So
mhm.
why do you
While
feel
they
like
were using it, while they
yeah,
were benefiting from it. Yeah.
yeah, well, they're benefited from it.
Mhm,
They kept it a secret from us and thrown it in us in jail.
mhm.
Is it because the black family was just too powerful and they had to
Of course.
find a way to destroy the black family?
Course. Yes, of course. It's been
Hmm
something that
I
they've
knew.
put in action since the beginning of time. And, you know, I have a son that's he he's half white, but he knows he's black because he has one drop, and he's very aware of that. However, I did grow up in a predominantly white town. I mean, I grew up in like a West Coast version of Friday Night Lights. Um, the town's very small. Everything's focus was on football, and so let me not say this where any viewer would be like, "Oh, she's okay. She's one of those. She has problems, race issues." That's not what it is. But this is actually the truth. So it's the eradication of the black race has been set in stone and has been just something that constantly is coming up throughout our history. And with technology, I mean, there are some really horrible sides of social media and technology and things like
Hmm
that. But when you use it the right way, and the power that it's giving us is the power of knowledge, the power of truth.
Yes.
And so the fact that we're finding this out, that scares them. I mean, it scares them that we're becoming educated. You know, it scares them that people are becoming entrepreneurs. I loved COVID. I took it as if you aren't doing anything better when we're out of this in 2022, but if you're doing the same thing after that you were doing before, miss me. Like we are just not meant to be in each other's lives because that was an opportunity for us to really pivot and start making a way towards rebuilding and strengthening our community and
hmm
becoming entrepreneurs. And like I said, building generational wealth. And I so wholeheartedly believe that cannabis is one aspect of, and the catalyst to what can be done. Um, we're strong. We've proven that. We're very strong people. We're resilient people. Um, and so all that we need are the opportunities, and we have to create those opportunities though. And that's not
We definitely do.
not going to be given to us.
We definitely
So
gotta go out there and take it because, like you said,
yes,
they're not gonna be given to us.
no,
Like
mm-mm,
so I got a question now. I wonder about weed now growing up because I don't know if you watch sports a lot, but there was a lot of athletes in the like the mid 90s, mid 2000s,
mm-hmm,
the
yep.
2010s, always getting suspended for weed. I'm like,
Allen
if weed
Iverson,
has this much
Chris Webb
benefits,
did, yeah,
then
yeah,
why are players getting suspended for it? But meanwhile, they don't talk about all the opioids and stuff that they gotta take when
yeah.
cannabis is a whole lot
Like
better for them.
you know, while they were sticking a long ass needle in someone's knee so that they can be able to get back out there on the court or the field,
Hmm
but really, all that they needed was a good rub down with a good CBD, THC, good ratio, a good topical. The plant is powerful. Like Cat Williams says, it grows from the ground. You put some seeds and it grows up, and it just happens to have special effects when you light it on fire, or
hmm
special benefits. But it's true. It's been used longer than we can wrap our brains around. Um, and that's also, hemp. You can do so many things. Our textile, industry would be so different if we were continued to use hemp. It can do so many things. I actually share it on when I do education, Instagram posts and maybe on my podcast, that there's a wheel that shows you like hemp's in the middle, but it just shows you all the different things that can be done with hemp.
Wow.
We don't want that though, because then people would become successful. Um, so yeah, it's good to remember all the obstacles that we've had to overcome and the falsehood and, the traps that they set up for us, because that should be motivation for now. We can pretty much go, thumb our nose at them and say, there's not anything that you can do. And I'm going to make this work. And I'm going to make sure that I have property to hand down to my kids, and then they hand it down and hand it down. Um, I love what you said about and my condolences about your grandfather. My grandfather passed away too from um, rectal cancer,
Hmm.
and he was a bishop, and my grandparents are saved, sanctified, stamped bound for glory from Jackson, Mississippi, and it's always been dope, 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 dope. When my grandfather passed away, my grandparents were married 62 years. They had been together since she was 13 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, and can you just imagine? That's your life suddenly being taken away. My grandma's never had to work a day in her life. She's a lady of luxury. She's a first lady. Um, and then for her love to just be taken, I knew what was going to happen. I knew that Alzheimer's or dementia was going to set in, because if people don't realize, that's your brain's protection. They're trying to protect you against a traumatic experience, or it's trying to protect you against a traumatic experience. Now it's horrible because it makes people forget, and it lessens their quality of life for the amount of time that they're here. But I remember going to see my grandma a few days after my grandpa passed, and her doctor, who has been her doctor since I can remember, 30 years, took her off of her medication cold turkey. She was taking about 30 types of medicine a day, and he took her off cold turkey and told her, just take Excedrin for pain. I wanted to go wring his neck, but instead, I said, "Grandma, don't get mad at me. Whatever the verse is in the Bible that talks about the tree of life, I said, that's weed." My grandma said, "Girl, child, I don't care. Do what you need to do to help me to feel better." And this was at a time that dispensaries, we weren't completely legal here yet in California. It was beginning to happen. So I had to find a storefront, which was pretty much a trap house, um, a weed trap house. And I went there and I found her the products that would be best for her. So I found her like edibles and vape pens that she could learn to microdose. And I got my grandma on that. And about 2 months later, maybe 3 months, she calls me and she says, "Can you get me some of that VCR?" And I'm like, "VCR? What are you talking about?" And I'm just like, "Oh Lord, it's set in. Like it's set in." And she's like, "No, you know how you got me that pen with that, what, the ABC?" And I was like, "CBD." And she says, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, you're trying to get a little elevated now, aren't you, grandma? Trying to get a little lit." So she wanted the psychoactive, which is THC. So if people don't know, THC is the psychoactive effect. That's the one that gets you high. That's the one that results in the munchies and sleepy, happy, hungry,
No
all
wonder.
that.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I'm glad you deciphered that. So
Mhm.
why do some people call CBD the diet weed?
So because it gives you wellness, it gives you a relaxed effect, it takes care of, like, any inflammation in your body, it can help you to sleep, but it doesn't get you high. It's more of a euphoric wellness. So that's why people call it diet weed, and it's like, it's still weed. You guys are just using a form of the flower that has matured more. Um, but this is something they've always known as well, because the plant is just science, just like any other plant. So they've known about all the cannabinoids, which are the compounds of weed. Um, so CBD, THC, CBN is something that people are hearing more of now. THCA, there's CBG. There are, and that's just a few. There's so many. And now that it's more acceptable and people are making money and, off of it. Now all of this research is coming out.
Yeah, that's.
Now,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, so the newest thing, when I saw CBD, products in CVS, I was like, "Okay, all right, so here we go. Everybody's gonna jump on that." And CBD is good, but you also need to understand the plant and how it works with your body chemistry, because you may need a ratio of CBD with like a higher ratio of CBD and then a lower dosage of THC. That together it provides the right kind of effect. So it'll give you that wellness effect and just a little bit of it being elevated.
Mm.
Um, so there's a responsibility in utilizing the plant. And that's why I do what I do, because I want to help people be able to make that decision for themselves and find
Yeah.
out how it can enhance your life.
Yes, that's real. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Liquor Talk Podcast. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the more you drink, the better we sound. I sound a whole lot better when you have a drink. And also for this episode, we sound better when we have weed as well. So
Always.
now that Big Pharma is getting involved, how do you know which strands to trust and which brands you can trust that doesn't have all the pesticides or
Mhm.
the other added effects as well? How do you know which ones you can trust?
So that's where the regulation, where each state comes into play, because each state and municipality, they have to come up with the testing standards and things like that. So that's what's going to keep you from, you know, I hate calling it the black market, but your homeboy that used to meet at the 7-Eleven and buy a bag from. Who would buy a bag from somebody? They didn't know exactly how that was grown, what pesticides, if any, were used in the process, what kind of lights, so we've been taking we've been taking chances, for all these years. But a lot of these, um, a lot of these individuals, they're really cultivators at heart. Some of these, and once again, I'm gonna point out Cat Williams because he made it the best. When go to your weed man and he's like, "Nigga, nigga, like, this is some
Mhm.
good stuff right here." So there's people that are like that, but is really into the science of the plant and the correct cultivation. So back to, the legal market and the brands that are in the storefront. They have to go through a stringent testing process. It's kinda like an FDA, even though our FDA screws us. But,
Mhm.
um, I will I'm comfortable in saying, and somebody can call me on it, cannabis companies probably go through more jump through more hoops and have more stringent rules to follow than somebody that's going through the FDA. Um,
Mm.
but, the packaging that you receive, it has to have certain labels on it that lets you know that it's safe, that it's, pure flower. Now, as the market grows and as more and more people are jumping into it, maybe there were home growers before, um, it's really a vibe because, let's say, 4 years ago, 22% THC, 23, that was good, that was fire.
Mhm.
I recently purchased a 52% THC pre-roll, which was that was fire.
Wow.
But more and more companies are really getting people that are cultivators that maybe were they were the skateboarders in high school, or, seen as the potheads. Those people are the ones now that are creating strains that are changing lives. So
Mm.
that's where I feel like people can feel comfortable, because these brands that are in the stores, and, that you'll see, I mean, most states you can't purchase weed at like a street fair or anything, so it is a dispensary. But as long as that dispensary is legal and they have all of their, um, I's dotted and T's crossed, and they're running everything correctly through their county and their state, they're not gonna have any products within their stores that are harmful. Um,
Mhm.
what is very important and part of what I do in the industry is it's called brand educate. Well, I call it being a brand educator. Um, More people would commonly know it as a brand ambassador. So you see people that like, hey, want to taste this new Red Bull or something like that. It's a marketing, um, it's a marketing step. But our role in cannabis is so imperative and so important, because we're the ones that are educating you all. I can tell you, I've been in dispensary and I can tell right away when somebody walks in and it's their very first time. Or let's say it's somebody our grandparents' age, who maybe their grandkid gave them a gummy and they don't feel comfortable in going back to them, but they know that that's a weed store up the street. And so they walk in. There's so many products, that it can be overwhelming. In order for us to get this medicine in the right hands and to be able to continue to expand the target market, education is so important. So that's why I do what I do. make sure that I educate on the brands that are right. So let's say I'm doing education on a vape pen. I talk to somebody as they come in and they're like, "Oh, I'm not really into vapes. I'm more into flower or what's blowing up right now are drinks." I take a lot of pride in the fact that I know a lot of product knowledge, and I know based on what ailment or whatever affect, whatever their purpose of utilizing the plant, I know how to educate people to make sure that they find the right products. Once they're comfortable in that, they're just gonna continue to educate themselves and to evolve. Um, it's just like any other service or any other tangible item, you know, another movie quote, I speak in movie quotes and things. Pepsi is a brand that everybody knows,
Yes.
and so,
Yes.
you know, so why does that happen? Because of all the years that they put in, but also the knowledge and the education that we have. Same thing for these brands.
Yes.
You
Yes, they need to. Now, what's it gonna take for the brands to finally realize they need to invest the money and start marketing, instead of just being in one state? Because, like I said, I live in Florida, and now Florida is starting to pop up with the dispensaries as well.
Yes.
So it's about
I
time.
I was surprised because y'all are special out there in Florida. Y'all do things on your own time,
Yes,
in your own
that's true.
fashion. Your politicians, they just be like, "F whatever anybody else says. Imma do what I do." Um,
Hmm.
but Florida's probably one of the states that needs it the most. So people need to calm
Yeah,
down out
yeah.
there. Calm down. Um, but it's just very important that we have the good representation and that big pharma is not really the problem. It's corporations that are coming in, buying out, other companies or brands that built themselves up. And what people need to understand is if you're gonna come into this industry, you're coming in to be a boss. Don't come in and end up being an employee again, by somebody coming in and saying, "Well, I'll invest in you." Next thing you know, you only own 32% of your company while they own a majority.
Hmm.
So we definitely were seeing that in the beginning stages. Now you have people like Diddy. He purchased and did an integration of one of the biggest and if not the largest cannabis brand. Um, and he's going to utilize it by making sure that it's a incubator type of integrated company. So he's gonna bring people in, people of color, people that have been disenfranchised, and allow them to, if they wanna become cultivators, then we're gonna help you, like, put you in an incubator so that you can then be a part of the industry that you're meant to be in. Now, of
Hmm.
course, that's fattening Diddy's pockets. Not mad at him for that. Um, but it's individuals that have the money, that wanna make the investments. There's a lot of angel investors, but what I say is they need to understand the equity side of it. It is not for y'all to get rich again off of. It's not. Um, and when I say y'all, I'm meaning the beige, the
Yeah.
non-melanated, especially the men. It's not a green rush, and I've heard so many of them say that. I'm like, "This is not your current gold rush." This is if you for years have been part of the problem, not making sure that it didn't come legal or, voting for laws that put people in jail. Somebody trying to break up an ounce so that they can buy their baby back to school clothes. And then now they're in jail missing not only that year that they were trying to buy their baby school clothes, but for probably the next 5 to 10 years.
Yes.
Um, and every state has to have a responsibility. If you're going to make it legal, if you're going to look at the recreational side, equity needs to be built into that. You can't be getting this money and then, in federal funding or state whatever's out there. You cannot get the benefit of it if you're not trying to right the wrong. So,
Yes.
yeah, I know there's a lot of advocates that within the industry that work within their states going legal. So I know, like within New York, New Jersey, Redman is a huge part. He has a great organization that works towards creating equity. And then, of course, he would have a weed company as well. But it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, of course. Um, but it's just important that those that can do, and then pass that ability down to others because, like you said, you would have loved to have a strain that could have saved your grandfather's life. There's somebody out there right now that's growing some weed in their grandma's closet or is doing something else that is that person that
Yeah.
can definitely, come out with tangible proof. This weed right here will cure cancer. This weed right here, will X, Y, and Z. But we have to make those opportunities, and then, like I said, those that can provide the opportunities, they need to, and most importantly, that starts at um, the level of making it legal. So, that responsibility is within our government and our elected officials, which I'm about to get a little political, but when we are trying to develop an industry that's in our that's beneficial for us, that's when we have to start looking at the whole picture. And in order for it to be, like I said, a tool for us and to build up our community and for success, then we have to, like I said, we have to be a part of it. So that starts with going to your city council meetings. That involves writing letters to, your senators or whatever. Like you have to, and voting. Like you have to educate yourself in all facets of what's included, and what surrounds the plant.
Yes, you
Um,
do. You really need to educate yourself on everything that
mhm,
involves the plant and stuff. Now, are people still buying green cards? Because I remember when a couple years ago when me and some friends took a trip to California,
mhm,
they wanted to hit the dispensaries, and the first thing they purchased, they bought the little weed card. And I'm like,
mhm.
I almost did, but now I was like, why the hell would I pay $50 for this when I can't use it in
Because you
Florida?
can use it. So, it was definitely more like in 2015, 16, I
Mm-hmm.
got mine. Um, and it was more required because this was before it was completely recreational. So, at this point, it was medicinal.
Mm-hmm.
So, those doctors or those companies, they definitely made out. Because 'cause Imma tell you, I sat and the first time I got it, I was near, the university out here in Sacramento, Sac State. And I'm gonna tell you that probably half of the 40 patients that were in the waiting room were, you could tell, just 18, and they just like to smoke weed, right? The excuses that I heard when they went in the doctor's office, this one boy went in there and said, "When I blink, my left eyelash, it bothers me." And the doctor said, "Okay, we'll write you a prescription for that." I was like, "Oh, alright. If y'all don't go through what I had to go through, which was finding the weed man and meeting him at the In and Out or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
buying a dime bag or whatever, like, y'all should have to go through the same thing." But when regulation, and especially here in California, when regulation for recreational to make it just completely recreational, when that started picking up steam, people don't really think about it. There are some dispensaries within the state that will give you a little bit of a discount if you are a medicinal. So there are a few people that still do. I don't know why. I like I I don't see the purpose of it because you're only getting like 5, 10%.
Damn, that's it. $50, like 5, 10%. That's crazy.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Well, especially when the taxes are so crazy, especially on delivery services.
mm,
Um, you buy $40 worth, which is usually the minimum, and by the end of your transaction, you gotta go to the ATM and get out $69. Like, it's that much in taxes. But my husband did just point out something. Part of the benefit of having a medicinal card is that you can buy more within a day. So,
oh wow.
regularly, I can buy an ounce. I think they can buy 2, and then they can buy more plants as well.
Mm. So now, is there a limit on like the edibles and stuff and the cream stuff you can buy, or no?
So there isn't a limit there because it's not the same as the flour. So it doesn't they don't weigh or they don't measure out the edibles and stuff to ounces like they do, or eighths ounce or whatever, like the flour.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just saw somebody actually in the dispensary and she bought every single flavor and I mean she cleaned out their edible section of Kana, if you guys know about that brand. Probably one of the first as far as edibles within the industry. I mean, she walked out of there with bags like she had gone shopping, like at the mall. Um,
Wow.
but that's what I love about it. People are able to find out. maybe they don't smoke. A lot of people are intimidated by the names, the strains. A lot of dispensaries, are very loud. They play rap music hella loud, which is fine, but when you have an 85-year-old in there just trying to come get their salve for their shoulder, or their bath bomb or something like that, that can be a little intimidating. Um, so, yeah, but hey, burner, cookies, they're all a thing. Like, they're definitely targeting that market of 18 to 28, although the market and the age group that's buying the most is well beyond that.
Exactly.
Um,
Well
yeah,
beyond that.
yeah, yeah.
Now, another thing someone mentioned to me years ago, which have you heard of people that use oils that they cook with cannabis oils and stuff? Like, and how does that work?
Yes, I do. Like I said, I use the entire plant in whatever capacity, which is everyone that you can think of. But all that you do is that you take shake, which is the really already fine broken down flour,
Mhm.
and you put there's machines and things that you can use, and I love that the very first machine was created and the business is ran by a Black woman. Shout out to you. However, I'm only using that machine if you gift it to me. I do it old school. So you can use your oven, a cookie sheet, and parchment paper. You put the flour on there. You kind of, I guess you can say roast it, but it's called decarbonate. Oh my gosh, why can't I say it right now? You're decarbing. It's a much larger word than that.
Mhm.
Um, I will say, please forgive me. I was up the past couple days doing my son's science project, as if I'm in sixth grade. And then I was up pretty much all night last night creating and doing one of my other podcasts. So I'm usually much quicker. But so you decarb it in the oven, you put it on like 250 degrees for about 35 minutes. You take out the flour, you let it cool off. You get whatever oil. It needs to be a good, fatty, healthy oil. So avocado, coconut oil is going to be the main one. Olive oil. You can make can of butter. But what you do is you add the flour into the oil. You let that melt and you put on a double boiler and about 2.5. I usually go a little bit longer because I want it to be nice and infused and potent. Then you
Mhm.
just take a cheesecloth, you strain that out, and then you're in with infused oil. I cook. I have a 14 and 11-year-old, and other than I told my husband the other day, like, okay, when I was pregnant and a little sick, maybe that little bump of that blunt, because these boys act special now. I mean, I I don't know if it's the age or what, but sometimes I look at my husband, I go, "I'm sorry." Like, but I cook with, olive oil, so if I'm making stir fry or something like that, I will use the infused olive oil.
Mm.
Um, Infused coconut oil is the base for everything. I make my own intimacy lube. I have a line of products, it's called Power Flower Wellness because there is power in that flower, and I make, salves. I make for pain and inflammation, headaches. Like I said, I make a really good intimacy lube called Love Butter. Um, I want to start making just skincare wellness products, but the base of it is just infusing a really good healthy oil. So
Yes, that's amazing. Now I wish they sold the oil already infused, but but I'm pretty sure if you
they
look
will.
hard enough, you can probably find
They
it.
will for you. Oh, you come to a dispensary in California or anywhere that the industry's thriving, and you will see it. I mean, there's infused. I have a very good chef, friend of mine. Shout out to Chef Matt. Um, but he has just come out with an infused line of hot sauces, barbecue, and ketchup,
Mm.
and there was already some on the market. There's infused wine. There's infused whiskey, and of course they draw out the alcohol, so it's just infused with the plant. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So and olive oil and all that. But I'm gonna tell you now, I'm about saving your coins, okay? If you can do it yourself, do it. Don't go into the dispensary and pay $45 for what you could go to the Dollar Tree. Maybe it won't be that great of quality of olive oil, but it will be, and save,
Mm.
50, $60.
Hey,
So,
that is some good tips and stuff right there.
mhm.
Now, what about this? Now, tell me more about this intimacy oil because I did have a question about the weed, but tell me more about the intimacy stuff, and then I'll get to the intimacy stuff.
Yes, it is fantastic. I'll say that I gifted some friends of mine just in the testing process, a little bit for them to use, and the next time I saw them, the husband said, and he's like, quote, you can use this as testimony." He's like, "I have never felt that amount of moistness in a very, very long time." And my wife, he was like, "I need to order a vat." And I was like, "Okay, a vat, huh?" Um, but it's just simply using the plant and then essential oils. Essential oils work with our bodies in so many wondrous ways. Once again, it's
Hmm.
from the plant, it's from nature. So, um, I just use essential oils, and I was just telling my mom about it, and they go crazy when they find out that all you really need is black pepper essential oil, peppermint, and something like a lavender, something that produces, relaxation. But the black pepper and the, peppermint actually works with our genitalia and our organs, and it helps to increase the blood flow, which we know that's a good thing. The blood flow goes there. So, it is, like I said, it's a wondrous flower. I mean, it's so many things that you can do with it, and I just I I honestly feel like as, Black Americans, as Black people,
Hmm.
we are so historically connected to being makers, to using the plant, to using what's provided to us from nature. Um, I know that if my Madia, my great-great-grandma were here, she would be appalled at the fact that I don't know how to grow my own vegetables or snap a chicken's neck, pluck it, and then have it on the dinner table. Just being able to be self-sufficient and learning plant medicine and learning how it can best benefit our health is so important. Like we have such a deep connection to it. I mean, how many times has your grandma or your mom told you, drink some castor oil or get that, and this is so in exaggeration, but go ahead and grab that spider web, wrap it around a boiled egg, put it in your sock, put that on your foot, rub your head with some Vicks, and go to bed. And then you wake up feeling great the next day. Like we've always had some wacky, for lack of a better term right now, connection with um, holistic health.
Yes, and
And
not going to the doctors. Yes.
yes, yeah, yeah. And that's what cannabis can do. And that's why I said when I started looking into making salves, because my MS is very good. I understand how the illness affects me, but I started to learn to use topicals for some of the pain or, the symptoms that I have. My husband played basketball. He's a high school basketball coach, and he hurt his back. And I make salve, and I know exactly what formulation I need to put together for how his back hurts, or in what area it hurts in. Headaches, bad allergies. I'm in the city of trees in Sacramento. We have trees that are 1,000 years old and so many different ones. So I've learned how to make a headache topical, or something that helps with sinuses and allergies. All that you have to do is do the research. I mean, it's so easy now with Auntie Google. I don't have to
Hmm.
go to the library. I don't have to pull up the encyclopedia, but it's performing your like I said, doing your due diligence, but then making sure that the resources that you get are real and legit. Um, and that you're informing yourself with the right information. So yeah, it's all come from just a desire to know and to understand and to really, like I said, pass the word on and do my part in making this plant normal like it should be.
Yes, yes. The plant should definitely be noble. This has definitely been a great education on the plant, what I'm saying, teaching us something about the plant as well.
Mhm,
Now, do you think the plant can cure ED? Because I've known some guys that tell me that sometimes if they got high
mhm.
and then next thing you know, a couple hours later they couldn't perform in bed.
So that is definitely a mental thing, and then probably a little bit of health. And I'm gonna
Mm,
tell you that I just learned this from, I host 4 podcasts total, and one my husband and I have together, and it was, she was a she's a doctor who actually focuses on men's health and ED and things like that. And she was talking to us about how, Hims and Blue Chew and all that is a problem because people that don't have problems are developing them from themselves later in life. And so she broke it down. What causes ED is that something is off kilter. Everything has to be in conjunction with each other and working together. So mentally, you need to be well. And I'm not even just saying like mental illness, but like you got to be focused. You got to be in the moment, especially for men. You are visual creatures. You're aroused by, visual things and smells and things like that. So that takes some self-reflection, some accountability, and am I setting the mood right? Then also, more likely, there are underlying health issues
mm,
that could be causing that problem. Um, Cannabis is actually a very good lubricator for those, grown and sexy times, especially
mm,
for women. It allows us to get into our femininity, our goddess mindset. We're not thinking about the 17 things that we have to do after. It really allows you to connect with your yoni. It allows you to create, like I said, with your divine femininity. And for men, it helps them to relax their body because we know you guys take a lot of blood flow that needs to go to that area to get things going. So cannabis allows your central nervous system to do that. We all have an endocannabinoid system. So if you notice, cannabinoids I talked about earlier, that's in the plant. We, as biologically as humans, we have an endocannabinoid system. So
mm.
if that's not being triggered, if that's not being massaged and manifested, that's a lead to so many other problems. So when people say that, I would suggest that you don't just automatically. I think that's kind of a smokescreen, honestly, because a lot of men don't want to, and I understand. I mean, just for like women, our breast helps to determine our who we are as women, our vaginas. So I can understand men not really wanting to go and have the conversation about, why it's not working or why they're having problems being intimate. But what I will say is do it. Just if that's happening, start with blood work. Blood work will tell you everything. And then make
Mhm,
sure that you find a practitioner that you feel comfortable in talking with. And if that's just like, I don't really want to do that. At least get the blood work going, find out what could be the cause, and then you work on fixing it. Everything
mhm.
can be fixed. Everything can be reversed. It may take a change in diet. I mean, I love my IPAs, okay? But it may take you not having to drink IPAs or, Casamigos. Some people still smoke cigarettes. I don't know why in 2023, but
Yeah,
maybe you should go
I
ahead and
don't
put
know
those down. You know,
yeah.
uh, blood pressure, so all those things kind of play into it. So I will say, I'm very confident in this. It does not come, but the cannabis is not the catalyst for those problems. So,
Mm,
yeah.
that's real, that's real. Man, this like I said, this has really been a great, great education on the weed and stuff. So now what do you say to people who feel like what do you say about people that are still sitting in jail for weed in 2023? At what point are these politicians gonna just do we need to try to get them a presidential pardon? What's it gonna take?
I mean, there are steps being taken. I do wanna shout out brands like, 40 Tons brand. They are they were created based off of prisoners, ex-prisoners, and them coming out and helping others. Making sure because if anything, those people should automatically get right out and just be given the golden ticket to be able to start a business. If that's
It
their
should.
desire. It definitely, you know, so there are a lot of brands and a lot of organizations that focus on getting that equity and changing the laws and getting people out. Um, it is I spoke at an event last year, it's called the Bud Tender Awards, and I know a lot of the people that I follow that have inspired me, I followed them through social media. To physically be talking to some of these leaders like Roz McCarthy, um, Evelyn, and I forgot her name right now, but she's the weed lady out of Oakland, so you guys just look her up. Um, to be on panels with them, one, I felt like a little kid, like I was meeting, my favorite, like I was meeting Janet Jackson, like I was just so in awe. And I remember Roz McCarthy looked at me and she said, "Remember, you're here with us. So you have a responsibility to help change, this industry and to make it fair for everyone." Um, and I realized that we all have a responsibility. You can't just be a passive participant. And working with organizations, local organizations, making sure that your cannabis community in your local city has equity programs or, they have dispensaries that are Black owned. Um, that's something that is going to help to lessen that as well. Now, part of the problem and our obstacle is people don't trust the legal system. So while there are opportunities and changes, to the laws where they are turning over people's convictions, that does take acquiring your own attorney because you want to make sure that this is all expunged, like that is closed for you. A lot of people that have been in prison for some years, that is not their mindset. They're just ready to get out and try to get back to normal life. So, once again, as I said, we do have an accountability and responsibility to get more people in that mindset. Nobody's gonna fix it for you. No, I mean, especially with our legal system. How many of you guys received a letter from the government being like, "Thank you for serving your time. Thank you for" No, that doesn't happen. So they're damn sure not gonna come out and be like, "Ooh, we messed up. Let's go ahead and make sure that you can live a life, that you deserve, that you've earned." Um, it really takes a lot. Once again, it's kind of politics, but it definitely takes people being involved on the local level, state level, and then probably once we get old Joe out or whoever's gonna be in here next, then the movement's gonna have to be everybody coming together and then the federal government. But
Mm,
as more and more states become legal in some aspect, they're not gonna have any other choice. I mean,
mm.
especially when Florida, because I think what Florida does, they should just go, "Hands up, it is. Let's go ahead and declassify it and let's make it legal."
Yeah,
So
I think Florida's progress is gonna happen when we get this idiot
oh,
out of office.
I mean,
And
that's the whole
now we
situation.
saw that he was running for president. I'm like,
Yes.
mm-mm.
If anybody ever needed a time to be smoking weed, it is gonna be in the next couple of years, okay? So,
Hell yeah,
uh, I mean, stay lit, okay? But,
yeah.
it definitely takes, like, on my podcast, I, have offered for people that have recently served, um, many years. Luke Scarmasto, it let me not mispronounce his name, but he's a gentleman that I saw on the local news about 3 months ago, and at the beginning of legalization, it was still kind of like some gray areas, but he was running a dispensary in, I wanna say Turlock, which is Central California, and, all of a sudden, after running it for a couple of years, he was charged, thrown in jail, and was in jail, I wanna say 21 years?
Damn.
Yeah, yeah, for doing everything at legally what he knew and what he was what was provided to him. But, you guys can, if you guys are interested in finding out more of his story, I'm gonna get his exact, correct spelling of his name. But what I do is, I mean, I would love to be a brilliant idiot's, that level of a podcast, and I will one day.
Same
But,
here. One day we're gonna get there. One day.
we gonna get there. But me taking the time now to spread that story That's what's gonna change things. We have to tell the stories. We have to touch the hearts of people because I know when I saw that, I was like, "He missed his children being raised." Like, he missed such an imperative time as he sat in jail and started watching all these people becoming rich and, more and more every time he looked around, it was becoming more and more legal, and it's just like I said, it takes all of us, it takes a village. It takes a village to raise our
Yes.
children, but it takes a village to enact change, and
Yes.
that's what's gonna have to be. Yeah.
Yes. Now, what do you want people to know about weed and the cannabis if they've never smoked it before? What is one thing you just want them to take away from all of this?
The main thing is that it's powerful. There's endless amount of benefits. Um, it can change the quality of your life. It can change the future for your children. It can enhance your wellness. It can improve your health, reverse some health issues. For somebody, I will say this. I talked to my neurologist the other day and I was talking about how I talk to people now. When I first got diagnosed and I said I had MS, they were like, "Oh, never heard of that. What is that?" Now it's like, "Oh my gosh, my auntie, my cousin, my friend, somebody has it." It's so much more prevalent, and it always affects us. It seems like every illness affects Black people and especially Black women just in higher numbers. But like I said, we're connected to the plant. We're connected to wanting to have control over our wellness and our well-being. And I just want people to know that there's so many ways that this can enhance your life. Maybe your dude is in jail or your wife is in jail, because they were trying to sell some weed. And they're getting ready to get out, and that they would be great being a dispensary owner or a cultivator. So, do what you need to do. Have a arsenal of information, know every law, rule, everything inside and out, so that when they come home, you can then inform them and let them know you actually having a crime is a benefit. Having a crime or a charge in cannabis. That's why a lot of equity programs are set on. So they definitely try to help people that have been disenfranchised on the criminal level. Um, women, women of color, another huge equity piece. So be informed, know where your power lies, and we can also help our aunts and uncles and grandparents from living their last amount of years just completely counting on pills because we know what happens. You take one pill, then you need another pill for a side effect. Then that pill has a side effect. Then you need another one. Then you develop a health issue. It's a, never ending circle. But if you're able to go ahead and just show them that that little hit of weed or rub that little bit of weed on the shoulder can just improve your quality of life. And like I said, it's powerful. And so I use the word powerful when I talk about cannabis a lot because that really, I think, it is the perfect definition, because it can do so much. And I will say this I know here in California, I don't know if you know, but California, they just approved to give to give reparations and to give like $2 million. I don't think they're ever going to do that, guys. This is our reparations. Okay. We're never just going to be giving 40 acres and a mule, but we can make that by taking opportunities to become entrepreneurs and to change a narrative and to really let them know that everything that they set in to make us fail, we're now using it to rise up and to become more powerful. That's their worst fear. So,
Yes.
and it's great. My husband and I have been together 22 years, and this is the thing within cannabis. Couples that smoke together stay together. Um,
Yes.
so yeah. So if anything I could say is just find out if it's your cup of tea. I think it should be everybody's. And you can make tea with cannabis as well. I do that as well.
Yes, you can. You definitely can. Lastly, why should people subscribe to the MariJayne Maven podcast? We know you got a dope platform. You wouldn't be on
Thank
Liquor Talk
you.
if you didn't have a dope platform. But why do people need to
Ew.
tap in and subscribe to your podcast?
You need to tap in because I am passionate I'm purpose for them. I am so dedicated to telling my story. And when I leave this earth and get ready to move to earth 2, because I think there's another one, um, I will know that I left a footprint of significance in the lives of others in a positive way. And that's what I try to do with each episode of my podcast. I try to inspire, I try to enlighten. We may just get high together and I talk about how great Drake is because me and Aubrey have a relationship. He doesn't know it yet, but we do. Um, you know, doing game night type things. It's really truly who I am. And I want to, like I said, impact the lives of others in a positive way. You may have a child that you want to look into, treating them with cannabis. Let me be that first step in that journey. Let me be a catalyst for you to change, your life in a positive way. And we will do that. We will do that every week. So come menage with me.
Yes, we definitely will. Thank you for bringing the Menage to Liquor Talk. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming on, and like I said, whenever you're ready for me to return the favor, remember I might be in Florida, but I'm just a DM away. I'm ready to make it
Yes.
happen. You let me know. Thank you to listeners for listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen. Go ahead and please like, comment, subscribe, and share this. And please tap in with both podcasts and tap in with all you Black creators because we're taking over for the 23 and the 24.
Yes.
This has been Liquor Talk. We out this thing. Good night, y'all.
Bye, guys.